Hi folks. Today I'm going to do another Python program, or at least get one started. This will probably be a couple of videos, but we're going to go ahead and get working. Okay, so I'm going to code in the CodeHS sandbox. This is linked in your Canvas course, and you should already be familiar with it. You could also do the same thing in another online editor, but this is the one I'm going to use. Okay, so I'm going to make a fence calculator. Fence cost calculator is the program that I'm going to be working on today. So that's just what I've named it. I'm going to go ahead and create, and I'm going to be making it in Python. Oh, this is their auto launch stuff. I don't want any of that. The first thing I need is I know that all good programs have a header at the top explaining what they do, when they were made, who they were made by, important things like that. So here's my name and the date. This will calculate the cost of a fence. And I'm going to use the by attribution non-commercial share-alike for my license. Okay. So to get started, I really need to think about what is going to be important to this program. What do I want it to do? And what I really want it to do is I want it to take user input about probably the length, width, maybe the height, cost, etc. And then I want it to use that to calculate the cost of the fence. So we're looking at building a fence at my house, and everybody's ways to go through this process seem to be a little different. I thought it might make a good demo. Okay, so just to start a really basic version, I could set up variables for the different types of input I want, like length, and I want this to be input from my user. And how am I going to get the information I want? I'm going to say, please enter the length of your fence in feet. Here we go. Maybe even before all of this, I want a little greeting so they know what the heck this program is about. So I'll have a print line that says, welcome to the fence cost calculator. Enter your information below to discover the cost of your fence. Lovely. Okay. So length, I'm definitely also going to need width, but that's going to look very similar. Okay. And so let's just say they know the cost. Let's do that for now. Cost. Please enter the cost of your fence per foot. And at the end, I want a result. total cost of your fence is, and here I need to calculate what that's going to be. So that's going to be the perimeter, right? Do we remember how to make a perimeter? So you have the length twice and the width twice. So you can do it like this, 2 times length plus width. Okay, and then I need to multiply that whole thing by the cost. Okay, so length, width, twice times the cost should be the cost of the amount of fence that I have indicated here. But if I run this right now, what's going to happen? Do you remember? I'll go ahead and run it so we can watch it not go well. So I have a 20-foot fence by a 10-foot fence, and it's $5 per foot. That's not accurate, but there you go. Okay, so here's the error that I was expecting. Int object is not callable on line 16. So all of the length, width, and cost that I entered were numbers, and I calculated them down here as numbers, but then I tried to put them together with a string, and that's a no-no. We can't do that in Python, so I'm gonna stop. This fortunately has a pretty easy fix. All I need to do is take that number that I've calculated, wrap it in parentheses, and tell it, please turn that into a string so that I can print it out well. So let's try that again. 20, 10, 5. Oh, nope, what did I do wrong now? All right, well, let's see where I went wrong. Certainly expect errors, but I didn't expect one there. So let's figure out what's up. Int is not callable online, so it doesn't like this one. Length, all right, well, let's break this guy down. Oh, wait, I totally know what's wrong. Okay. This does look good, but up here, I never turned them into integers in the first place. So it was having trouble doing math on them. That's not where you do that. I hope everybody's Thursday. No, it's not Thursday. Wednesday. Wednesday is going well. All right, I definitely still did it in the wrong place. Input, no. You know, I kind of like doing these live videos because it shows that I make mistakes all the time. Okay, it likes that length. That's good. Will it like length plus width? Does that make it happy? Yes. Does it like doing this sort of math thing? No. Why doesn't it like that? Maybe it just really, really wants the multiplication symbol there. It's going to be silly and be something like that, isn't it? Of course it is. Okay. So I'm so used to the math way, right? Where you just put the number next to the parentheses and it knows what you want. But evidently Python is not reading my mind well this morning. Go figure. And it wants the little asterisk symbol so that it knows that it's supposed to be multiplying. Let's see if this is going any better now. Yay! Okay, except I would really like a dollar symbol out here. And if I want it to be all formatted nicely, I would also like to add a period at the end of the sentence. I think. Let's see how it looks. Hey, there we go. It's looking pretty good. $300. Oh, if only a fence was only $300. Okay. So there are some issues. The first one that I'm going to say is that cost might not be a round number, right? It might not be an integer. So let's make it a float. Remember, that's one where it's going to let us now put in a decimal. So we're going to run the code, still 20 fees, still $10, but now it's $13.50 per foot. Ah, and that looks pretty good. The cost of my fence is $810. Okay, all right. I am liking this so far. Now, here's where things go wrong the first time. Enter the length of my fence in feet. 5 feet. 5 is a number, should be good, right? But it can't turn it into an integer. However, I don't really want my program to just crash and not do anything when it encounters a problem like this. I would like it to remind the user that they need to enter an actual number. So let's write a function that can help us do that. So I'm going to go way up here at the top, and this is going to be a function to check user input. So I'm going to define a function and call it check input. So Python likes these underscores, so we'll be nice and do it that way. And what do I want to happen? I want to try something, and if it doesn't work, I want it to handle the exception and do something else. But I want all of this to run over and over again until I get an answer that works for me. So that's going to be a while loop. While true. Hey, you got to spell true right. It's going to be that sort of day, huh? Okay. All right. So while true, I want to try to turn my height or length or width or whatever it is into an integer. Oh, up here, I'm not going to check for input. I'm going to check for an integer. That's what I'm going to do. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to try and turn whatever it is into an integer. And if it works, awesome. I am going to return that integer. If it doesn't work, then I need to have them try again. So I am going to say print or what do I want to say? Input not recognized. That sounds all official. Input not recognized. Please enter an integer. Good. Okay, I like it. But then I need it to get prompted again to do that. So I'm going to need to be able to call this and with some text. So what am I going to do? I'm going to say that length down here, I no longer need to check input. What I'm going to want to do is I'm going to want to run the function based on this question. So when I send up to check int, I'm going to say I want bar to be, well, here. We'll call it user input because that's a little more clear than just var. User input. We're sending them a prompt. Okay. So let's look at what I've done here so far. So down here, length is going to be the name of the variable. We're going to call the check integer function and give it this prompt. Please enter the length of your fence in feet. Okay, so in this function, it's going to take that prompt, which is please enter the length of your fence in feet, and ask the user to input it. Then it's going to go into this loop. It's going to try to turn the user input into an integer. If it is successful, it will give that back. At which point, length will be holding the variable of whatever I typed in that it accepted. If it does not successfully turn this into an integer, it will say, input not recognized, please return the integer. Okay. And actually, I don't think I want it. Well, we'll try it this way. We're going to try it this way. For now, I don't really want to do any of these things, so I'm going to turn them off for a few minutes. But I do want to print length just to make sure it's working okay. All right, let's give it a try. Welcome to the fence cost calculator. Enter your information below. Please enter the length of your fence in feet. So let's do it right the first time and say I have a 20-foot fence. Printed out 20. So it went in here and prompted, and it successfully turned it into an integer. So it returned that input into the length variable, and I printed it out. Good, that's what we wanted to happen. Let's try it again. Please enter the length of your fence in feet. 20. Nope, that didn't work. So it did accept, but it did, oh, you know what? I didn't ask them to enter something new. Silly me. Okay, so now it's gonna be mad because I've created an infinite loop. I'm sorry, I didn't mean it. All right. So if you create an infinite loop like I just did, it's gonna crash your browser and be all unhappy, and you're gonna have to reload your page in order to reset things. Okay, but here we are, we're back. So what happened, right? I didn't enter a number, and so it came to this while loop, right? And it printed down here, input not recognized, please enter an integer, and then it's just stuck here forever and ever and ever and ever, and I didn't give it any way to like get out of this problem. So what I need is I need to do this again, so that the user input comes down here, gives the same prompt, right? Please enter the length of your fence in feet, so that I have a chance to try again. Whoops, let's give it a try. More white space than I want. Okay. Fence in feet. 5 in words. Input not recognized. Please enter an integer. No. Input not recognized. Please enter an integer. Oh, all right. 76. Hey, there we go. Much better. Okay, so I know that my function is working the way I want so far. Is there anything else we would like to check for? We can think about that. Maybe I also want to make sure that the numbers they enter are positive, right? Because we shouldn't have a negative foot fence. That wouldn't make much sense. So up here, instead of returning the user input, I'm just going to say, well, cool. I'm glad it worked out that it is an integer. Maybe now let's check if it's the right kind. If user in, do I want to do it like that? I think I can probably do it down here. If user input is less than 0, that's a problem. Or maybe even less than or equal to 0, because I don't want 0 foot fence. That wouldn't really make very much sense. Could I have a 0 foot fence? I'm going to say no. We're containing an area. Is that true? I suppose if they want just a one-sided fence, I'm okay with that. In which case, one of their dimensions would be 0. Okay, we'll say less than 0 is a problem. Less than 0. If it's less than 0, what's wrong? Well, it's kind of like this exception up here. Except we would say cannot have a negative length, a negative dimension. Please enter an integer, and we'll let them try again. Let's give it a shot. Oh, wait, and now I need a else. I'm thinking too much. Do less of that. Else return user input. So what I was just thinking and kind of stuck on here is I don't think I want this inside the while loop. Do I want this inside the while loop? Maybe I do. Let's try it. Fence in feet. Let's make sure we didn't break anything. That looks good. Does it still have problems with words? It does. Enter an integer. Length in feet. Okay, that part is still good. We didn't break anything yet. What if I enter a word and then I try and give it a negative number? -5. Totally fine with the number -5. That's not quite right. What if I do a number right off the bat? -2. Ah, look, there, it got that part right. So it just didn't like doing one and then the other. All right, so in case you didn't see the problem that just happened, when I enter a word, that is causing an exception right here. And it says input not recognized, please enter an integer. That's this line right here. And so now I'm going to put in a number like -5, but it just returned -5 and then printed it out down here. Really should have checked this guy and had a problem with it, because when I run it and I just give it a negative number like -5, it says correctly cannot have a negative dimension. Please enter an integer. Maybe I will try this one up in here. I should have hit cut. Let's see if I broke anything. 5, still good. Word, still good. Okay. How about a negative? Cannot have a negative dimension, enter an integer. Good. 8. Excellent. And then let's run the combo. What if I say hi? And then I say -5. And then I get to, okay. All right. So I like this one now. This looks pretty good. So this will check whatever for both if it's a number and if it's a non-negative number. So now that I have this function, I can run it on width down here as well. So it's going to look just like this one. Instead of input, I'm going to say check int. And I'm going to go ahead and print the width to make sure it's looking good. And that's, I like that. Let's run this code. Okay, it is correctly running that whole function. So there's one other thing I'm going to do, just to, you know, mess everything up. I like having this length and width in whole feet. I think being able to get your fence down to the round foot is reasonable. I'm going to say that that's okay. Usually, I don't think we measure fences all the way down to the inch. They probably bill you by the foot. I think that's okay. But cost, remember, we wanted a float, but I would still like to be able to check and make sure that they're not putting in text and they're not putting in a negative, because we can't have a negative cost. That doesn't make any sense. So I have some options. I could write a whole nother function that would look very similar to this one, but check for a float instead of an int. I could absolutely do that. Or I could try and level up this function a little bit so that it could check for whichever one I ask it to check for. So here, I'm now going to take 2 arguments to my function. I'm going to take a prompt, which is the text that I want it to display, and I'm also going to let it give me a type, except I bet type is a keyword. Number type. We'll do that. Okay, and now it's not check int, it's check input. Because I'm not necessarily checking for being an integer, I'm checking for whatever the heck is I'm asking about. So down here, I've changed the name of my function. So down here, everywhere I called it, I need to change the name of that function. It's check input now. Good. And now I'm going to give it 2 items, the prompt, the text, and the number type that I want it to look at. So here, I'm going to tell it int and int. And so now everywhere in here that I want it to use int, I'm going to replace with number type. So up here, I think, is that the only place? That's the only place. All right, let's see if I broke it. Fence in feet. Let's give it a nice number. Okay, so far so good. It took int just fine. Let's make sure that it throws errors correctly also. Hi. Input not recognized. You want a number. Okay. -8. Please enter a positive. Maybe it should say can't have a negative dimension. Please enter a non-negative integer. That's probably more correct, right? Make all our math people happy. Okay, it looks like we're doing all right. So over here, now when I come down to cost, I want cost to also run the check input function, and I want to give it that prompt, but I want it to check for a float, right? So that's that decimal. And then to make sure it's working, we're going to print it out. Okay, let's see how we're doing. Oh, it's all gone wrong. Okay, let's see. Wait, how did I get the number 23 up there? Did I do that? Must have typed when I didn't mean to type. Okay, length 2010. Let's try an integer first. 5. Seems to work. Let's try a float. 2.5. Let's try some text. Hi. Oh, it's Noah's unhappy. Doesn't like that at all. Let's try a negative number, hoping someone will pay me for my fence. Cannot have. Oh, see, it says negative dimension. I don't like that. Let's just go with cannot have a negative. That's nice and vague. Okay, one more time. Hi. Negative 78. Okay, fine. $13.25. Hey. All right, folks, this is looking pretty good. So we have, I mean, it feels like we maybe haven't done very much because all we've done so far is made sure that people are typing in helpful inputs. But we have set up this very nice function that is going to make sure that the information we get from our user is actually in a form that is usable. Because if I type in 57 in long words and purple and a negative 50 into my calculator, it's going to be hard to get meaningful results out of that. So now we've made sure that as we go, we can check for correct type and whether or not they've entered a positive number, which is great. So this is a really good function. We are able to use it multiple times, and I'm sure we'll be able to use it later in our program as well. So this is where I'm going to pause for today. This is a good function set up for later. We have worried mostly about our input now, but we do know that this print line worked fine earlier. I'm betting it will again. We could just check it real quick. Here we go. It's looking good. We will add some more features and options and probably more functions next time. Okay, have a good one, folks.